So Lacy, Samhain, Halloween, it's just such a potent time to really ground in and get clear on your manifestation practice.
When the veil is thin and we are so closely connected to spirit, I think it is our ancestors coming through, reconnecting us with what actually matters in life.
What does it mean when people say the veil is thin? Have you ever felt a spirit in the room? Have you ever felt like you were connecting with spirits? Have you ever gotten a psychic session? Are you curious about developing your own psychic gifts? In today's episode, Lacy and I are going to dive into the rituals of Samhain and Halloween and how we are integrating them from a place of authenticity. Even holidays can have programming. So what is our authentic way that we want to express various holidays and traditions and cultural norms? We are also honored to have on for the very first time Lacy's mom, Karen. Karen is a very gifted medium who has been harnessing and working with this gift for many years. She's excellent at helping people clear the energy. She actually cleared the energy for our New York City speaking tour before we entered the room and called in angels and positive energy, just holding, cocooning us in that space. And we're going to get to hear from her how she started to recognize her gifts coming online, how she sets boundaries with spirits, how she clears her own energy, and any advice for someone who is starting to learn about their own gifts for the first time. That was a huge theme that came up at the New York City speaking tour, was a lot of people asking about harnessing or learning about their gifts if they had them. And one way even that I've been feeling called to it is, especially since we had that episode with Dr. Tara, the signs, the synchronicities, and then listening to the pings or the ideas that kind of come through and really trusting them. It's creating more trust and secure confidence within myself the more I'm able to listen to those ideas or pings and know and feel that I'm being guided by something more than just myself. So I'm curious if you guys are having that experience with signs, synchronicities, psychic gifts, feelings into that as well. I want to thank everyone for coming to our New York City speaking tour. Guys, the energy in the room was unbelievable. I feel like everyone in that room got the call or ping to get a message that was divinely meant for them there. I got messages, people were buying flights the night before. They're like, I got the ping, I have to come. They figured out a way to get there, and they got even just the beginnings of something major for them, or they got something major for them in their lives in that room. I cannot wait to bring that energy to Austin and in LA as well. It's really this first kickoff of expansion before we dive into all of the deeper TBM work and the manifestation process this fall. And I want to give a big shout out to all of our New York City sponsors, to Lacey Hull, our event producer, Bon Charge, Alexis Smart for gifting beautiful unblocking and expanding products for us. It was just so magical. It was just so magical. And it was so incredible to connect with you guys in real person. I even felt so expanded hearing so many of your stories of how you've manifested and got more into alignment, especially over the past year. Despite how much stripping and transformation and change, people are manifesting rapidly. They're connecting to self even deeper. And even if they are experiencing that stripping, they're able to navigate it with ease. That is our whole goal of setting you guys up and connecting with you this fall, walking and holding your hand as a community. The very next step on the journey, if you can't make the speaking tour in Austin or LA, which we still have tickets to both, is our book club. That is kicking off next Wednesday, November 5th at 10:30 a.m. It'll be a live call with Lacy and I. There'll be 3 weeks of it, Wednesday, same time. And this is the first time Lacy and I are going through the steps of how to manifest. It is completely free to join. So whether you're someone that just bought the book, whether you are a Pathway member, whether you're a returning Pathway member, whether you've just been listening to the podcast, or you're like, I'm just going to send this to a friend because they need to know this work, this is the perfect place to start. We're going to be crafting our list. Next week, we're going to make our authentic code. I really feel like mine is going to change. It's just a gut feeling. So I'm so excited to see what unveils there. But this is where we set the foundation. We put the actual steps from how to manifest into practice. And then you can ask Lacy and I questions on each section in real time as we're going through the book or the How to Manifest workshop if you're going through that way. And it is priming us and preparing us to get very intentional, coming from a place of authenticity, getting clear on our purpose in this season of life. What has all the stripping been about? What has all the challenges been about? And it is going to become that North Star. So when we kick off our end of year challenge in December, we can really unblock and reclaim all of our magic, gifts, essence that we need to support us as we step into this next year. This is where manifestations come with ease. Surrender comes with ease. There isn't that push-pull. There isn't this, my manifestation's on a pedestal and I'm not good enough until I'm here. This is full embodied worthiness. And when we can connect with that, anything is possible. So come join us. Book club is starting next week. End of year challenge is starting in December. Check out our roadmap to see how we're going to guide you along each step of the way. I'll be sharing more on the podcast. But I just feel like the message that keeps coming through to me is like, now is the time. Now is the time. No more settling for the places that we have before. No more allowing the things into our world and into our orbit that just aren't 100% filling us up anymore. We don't have time to waste. There is a bigger calling at play here, and we're all a part of it. We all have a gigantic purpose, and I can't wait for you guys to connect deeper with yours. Okay, without further ado, let's jump into the episode. And now a word from our partners. I don't know about you, but maybe it's because we're getting into the chillier months, or maybe it's just that time of year where there's so much going on, but I have been craving stillness, gentle ritual, slow practices that bring me back into the present. That's why when I heard Anima Mundi was launching a set of ritual candles, I could not be more excited. They are launching 5 signature candles to start, each handcrafted, organic beeswax and pure soy, all natural dyes, toxin-free, sustainably sourced, and all vibrant colors with spellbinding energy designed to elevate your altar or ritual space. Each one crafted with a different intention, one for creativity, self-love, intuition, protection, and prosperity. And each one is covered in a special blend of herbs and flowers to enhance each of the themes. Things like mugwort, lavender, blue lotus, hibiscus, rose petals, or lemon balm. I cannot wait to pair these with my TBM practice. So as we kick off and head into the book club and the end of year challenge, every time I go to do my TBM work each week, I am lighting one of these candles, setting an intention, and knowing that I am calling in and manifesting with this towards my highest good. It feels like the best way to just set the energy, the intention of the space before I dive into all of this healing work and all of this alchemy work that we're going to jump into this season with TBM. You can even set the candle before you have a journaling session or you're going to do some big creative project. Or if you're tapping in more to your psychic or intuitive gifts, light the candle as that intention, that North Star, that guiding light to be in the space with you. If you are getting the ping to create more of an altar or a ritual for yourself to slow down this season, I highly recommend checking out the ritual candles. You can go to animamundieherbals.com and use the code TBM, all caps 20, for 20% off your purchase. Again, that is TBM20, all caps, for 20% off your purchase, or check out the link in the show notes. And now, on to the episode. So Lacy, Samhain, Halloween, how do you celebrate? How do you honor? What traditions are you crafting as a family? I feel like you've really expanded me in, you had a ritual before I even joined the team, and it was just like a little PDF, and it was like a couple of bullet points of something you were doing for Samhain. And I was like, what is Samhain? I don't even know what this is. I need to look into this. And I remember I set like a whole ritual up in my like tiny apartment living room with like all my grandma's old stuff. And I was like lighting candles. Daniel's like, what on earth are you doing? I'm like, we're calling in my ancestors. Like, come in here. But there was just so many practices that like I hadn't really heard or dove into and saw. And I feel like you're such an expander for so many and bringing these rituals back to the surface. So how are you celebrating them? How are you learning about them, integrating them, all of those things?
Yeah, the first thing I want to acknowledge is that every single community around the world, culturally, regardless of what cultural background you come from, celebrated some form of ancestral connection. So pre Christianity, pre colonial missionary around the world. Everybody had some form of this celebration. You have Day of the Dead, this Celtic tradition, which is it's my heritage, it's what I celebrate, the Samhain. It's just every single culture has had this. And I encourage people, whatever you're culturally identifying with in this lifetime, to really connect to those roots. It's so much more rich and deep and spiritually tied to the seasons and the wheel than anything that every form of religion really introduced, which tended to pull from these older rituals and practices. And so this one in particular, I'm actually loving so much in this season of life with children, because it's this, it's this conversation with a 1-year-old and a 4.5-year-old of like, what are we introducing to them for this holiday? And this has always been my favorite holiday since I was a child. And it didn't have anything to do with the candy. There was something so seasonal about it, the darkness of it, the autumn energy, that fire connection, the food connection. My aunt made this really special when we were growing up. Her house, which is one of the, 4 homes I lived at in 1 week growing up, because I had 4 of my family members caring for me growing up. But her house was the communal home always. And I remember it's like where my uncle and my father would come, and they would decorate the outside of the house, in the traditional Halloween fashion. And they would then become like the most in character, impressive people in front of the house that would stuff their clothes. And then they would be the ones to fright people. And it was like the house, everyone talked about him. My aunt or my uncle would make a huge thing of chili, and all the friends would be coming through and eating there. And it was the communal spot people met at in the neighborhood. So it was always really, really special to us. I even remember recently trying to find old 70s Scooby-Doos. That really felt like old Halloween to me. But it wasn't so much, the characters and whatnot. It was that they always were recreating sort of that New England, misty, lighthousey thing. I tend to follow coastal, spooky energy, and that's what I follow. Obviously, manifesting Mendocino, seeking after Scotland. Anyway, the question or the conversation comes back to, what am I wanting to introduce to my family and my children now that I've gone from maiden to mother? And Samhain is such a beautiful tradition for them. So this year, and our house is this house right now that my aunt had. It is the communal community place that everybody joins at and comes to. And so we're going to be throwing a Samhain party. And here where we live in the Santa Monica Mountains, there's only one road that kids actually trick or treat at. But if we create this ritual, this festival, this gathering, at least it's an anchor every year as a family to come back to, and these ancestral memories and connections and conversations. And so basically we're hosting a Samhain where we are going to have my friend Griffin of Cabin Corn. Many of you probably follow him. He's going to be making this insane traditional Italian soup inside of the pumpkin itself. And he's going to make the traditional braided noodles that go in it. It's really special. And we're going to have candle dipping for the children. The alpacas will be free and the chickens will be free. And basically we're calling it a Samhain harvest dinner. And so there will be a beautiful table with all the candles, and everybody's going to bring a photo of their ancestors and a dessert from their ancestral background. And basically the beauty of Samhain, as a Celtic festival, it's where it was honoring this liminal space where the veil is very, very thin, and you're very connected with the ancestral, with the transition side. And so it's this place where we can really teach the children. My daughter always asks, well, who was Granny's mama? Like, she doesn't know this stuff. So we're bringing out the photos, we're bringing out the different heirlooms, we're putting them on the table, we're setting the table for the departed ancestors and honoring them and teaching the children this beautiful tradition and this practice. It was also the New Year too. It was the Celtic festival of the New Year as the wheel turned. So yeah, it's going to be this really special moment for them as they're growing up that we always can come back to, that wasn't just the commercialism of candy and dressing up. And in our house, we don't do like wild costume stuff. It's just like grab whatever's in the dress up bin. We just don't get into the commercialism. So yeah, for anybody who's really wanting to practice out there, I really encourage you. I'll definitely have a Substack on this, but to really look into what is your ancestral tradition around this, because I guarantee that you have one prior to any form of colonialism. You had something that you practiced, and it's probably really beautiful. What about you, Jessica?
I love the intention of it. Like everything feels so intentional and nourishing. And I think the commercialization of Halloween is like spooky and scary and all of these things. And I'm like, I don't want to feel spooky and scary. I want to feel like excited and like with the season and like tapped into the veil versus afraid of it. So everything you're saying like so resonates. And it's funny, the past few years, I've always been like obsessed with all holidays. Like I love decorating ever since I was a kid. I love, setting everything up. And the past few years with Halloween, I'm like, there's not really decorations that feel true. So I've been getting like old witches' brooms and putting them around the house, or like pumpkins, like some things that feel more natural, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And not, the big plastic stuff, even though that's beautiful and cool when I see it on people's lawns. Like I'm like, wow, that's fun. But for us, it just hasn't felt right. But it's funny, ever since moving into our new home, they throw an annual Halloween block party, and everyone in the neighborhood, it's a potluck. You come and bring like your favorite dish. They go all out on the decorations, but everything's outside, like in their cul-de-sac, and everyone brings food. And we went last year, literally not knowing any of our neighbors, and everyone was so welcoming and and there's so many kids and dogs. So that kind of stuff, I'm like, oh, it's like the community aspect. And it's funny because growing up, I lived on a road kind of in the sticks on the side of our town. So we didn't have like sidewalks to friends or anything. And when I would go trick-or-treating, especially before my sister was born, I was the only kid anywhere around, like within 10 houses. So my dad would put on like spooky music playing out the back speakers of the house. And then we would go trick-or-treating, and all of the people, like all of our neighbors knew that like I was the only kid that was going to come by. So they'd get me like huge candy bars, but it was like for me because they knew no one else was coming.
Aww.
And then we would go to my grandma, who had like a more traditional house with all the neighborhood kids and sidewalks and all the chaos and stuff. But it was so funny because I was like, I kind of liked having this interaction one-on-one with the neighbors, because we would like sit at their house for a few minutes and talk to them and all of that. So there's something with community around this season I feel like is coming through for me, and like wanting to reclaim a little bit more of that. But yeah.
Well, that's sort of the peace that I think we're all craving. And, I celebrate a lot of pagan holidays, but for the most part, people were coming together in these moments to celebrate either the light or the darkness coming, or the harvest. And they were coming together with cider, and they were coming together with food and dancing, and just incredible connection. And I do believe in the commercialism and all the adaptations that have happened from these purest forms of celebration have kind of disassembled that connection, that we're all craving. And so, yeah, even the way that we decorate our house during this time, it's like I have like a cornucopia of just all of the fruits and, all the different squashes just like overflowing on our counters, with pomegranates and figs and candles everywhere. And it just feels like the ultimate harvest and abundance everywhere, and this warmth and light. And I love that you're feeling that pull towards brooms. It is the season of weaving baskets. And that's something, again, culturally, every single person in the history of time made their own brooms, made their own baskets. They needed these things as necessity. It was also the time that things went from outdoor crafts or needs into like hearth work, and so this is when you were like knitting and weaving and spinning. So there is this warmth and this rotation and weaving and connection that I think is cellular in us, you know? And when the veil is thin and we are so closely connected to spirit, I think it is our ancestors coming through, reconnecting us with what actually matters in life. You know, like the purest tangible forms. So I love that you're having that pull. And the closer you guys get to marriage and family, I bet it will only get stronger.
100. I know once kids are in the picture, it's going to be a lot of rituals and traditions and like setting all of that stuff up. We're starting to try to do it with Theo, but it doesn't quite land the same. He's like, I don't care. We actually did as a community, we went over to our neighbors and they hosted like a pumpkin carving and we laid the tables out and whatever. And we're like, Theo, and he's like, I want to eat the pumpkin. Like, I don't care about your carving. Like, I don't want to take a picture with it. I just want to eat your pumpkin.
Oh my gosh. Sweet Theo, but he's probably so grateful that he's included.
He is. And he gets to play with the neighborhood dogs, which are his best friends. So he's good.
Oh, it's so beautiful that you found a neighborhood that you get to. I mean, isn't that incredible?
Unbelievable. I'm just like, how everyone needs to connect with their neighbors. I'm just like, it's so important. It just makes such a big difference. This kind of tees us up into the end of the year and the magic that we're connecting on from Samhain into literally the holiday season to the new year, all of the things, because I think it's such a potent time. There's a childhood medium I follow on TikTok, and he was talking about how, well, the reason the holidays feel so good is because everyone is primed to be in like such a positive mindset. Like they're excited to give gifts. They're excited for the holidays to come. And when collectively we're all excited or primed for joy, it lifts the entire vibration of the planet at that time. So more miracles can happen and more things can be discovered. So thinking about this time, really from now until the new year, of tapping into that magic and joining along and setting your intention and connecting with your own magic. We'll talk more about the end of year challenge. We're going to be doing a lot of that, but I think it's just such a potent time to really ground in and get clear on your manifestation practice through this lens of reconnection.
I agree. And I think even as a brand, we have a really cool roadmap of that's happening. I love what that kid said, and I love that he's able to tap into that and be so intelligent, you know, spiritually. It's how old is he?
Like 7 or 8. I have to send you his page. I'm like down a rabbit hole. I'm like, what? He's like, he basically knows all of the information. He's like channeling from beyond. It's wild.
How incredible. But I do believe that, you know, in this, I keep talking about the year of stripping, but I think so much stripping is going to be coming in ways we're not even aware of how that's going to affect, like in government and systems and scaffolding of society of what has been normal, which I think a lot of that's coming, that's going to just be shifting and reorganizing. And the thing that I've been hearing collectively from the seers, I know strong in my community, that the more of us are in that state of being, not contrived, but like in TPM, integrating, doing the work to become more integrated, positive individuals, the more that we can shift the intense stripping, we can dial down how intense the stripping will feel. Kind of that the light can help counterbalance how intense that's all going to feel. So less of an earthquake and more of a gentle arc and shift. So I think that's really beautiful that he's tapping into that about what these seasonal things do to us when we are in community, when we are in reverence, when we are in ritual. That's what we're supposed to be. It was completely broken up, you know. We lost that as villages, as societies, as different communities. I think there is a very big reckoning and call as well to recreate that and be in that again. That's why neighbors feel so good to you. It's a village. We're meant to live in village, you know, and the village atmosphere and with family. So yeah, I think that's really special.
Well, I think just setting the intention for everyone to, however you choose to celebrate any of the holidays coming up this season, just tapping into what feels correct for you and what traditions and rituals you want to start making in your home or your family or any of the things. I mean, I even remember when I was like single, living alone, I would do little Halloween rituals with myself and like light the candles and do all this stuff. So, what are those little things that you could start doing now too?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, be connected.
There's something about bone broth that feels almost medicinal. It's this ancient practice of slow simmering bones for hours to release collagen, protein, and minerals that truly nourish the body. When I sip it, I can feel the difference almost immediately. My digestion settles, my energy steadies, and it feels like this warm, comforting, grounding nourishment. That's why I love Kettle and Fire. Their bone broth is rich, savory, slow simmered, and made with 100% grass fed and finished beef bones or organic free range chicken bones. No additives, no preservatives, no weird stuff, just clean, real ingredients. It supports gut health, digestion, muscle recovery, energy, and immune function. Not only does it have 19 grams of protein per serving, but it's naturally rich in collagen and amino acids like glycine and glutamine, which help repair the gut lining, joint health, and aid in your recovery in ways that most health foods don't. Plus, sipping something hot and savory signals to the body to go into that rest and digest state, soothing your overall nervous system and digestion. I like to heat up a little cup of the Kettle and Fire either first thing in the morning before I make my breakfast or start my day, or I'll do it in the afternoon right when I finish a workout to kind of fuel me, sustain me before I can make a full dinner. And it feels so supportive. I notice a massive difference in my skin, my digestion, and my overall health. It also tastes delicious, and I love adding it sometimes to my cauliflower rice or my stir-fry vegetables to just add more flavor and bring a different simmer to everything as well. It makes a huge impact on cravings as well as bloating and digestion. For a limited time, you can get a free carton of Kettle and Fire bone broth by going to kettleandfire.com/TBM. Just buy any 3 cartons in store and they will pay you back for one. This works on any flavor at any retailer. You can find Kettle and Fire in stores nationwide, including Costco, Walmart, Target, Publix, Whole Foods, Kroger, and Sprouts. That's KETTLE and fire.com/TBM to get your free carton. We're so excited to have you here.
Thank
The
you.
community is so excited to have you here. Okay, so I want to kick off and then we'll jump into what was channeling through for you yesterday. But describe to people, Lacy's talked about your mediumship and how that has come through so strong for you in so many different ways and all of these gifts and how Lacy comes through for her. How do you feel that gifts really like channels through you and feels for you as it's coming through, especially to audience members who aren't as familiar with this gift or psychic gifts or intuitive gifts?
So I see in my mind's eye, I'll see a person or they'll show me what they want to show me. And then they'll either show me like symbols, I'll hear them speak, or they'll just pop stuff in my head. So it kind of comes in different ways.
So it means that you're claircognizant, clairvoyant, clairsentient. I think you have most of the clairs very strongly because they choose to communicate to you in all of the ways and your dreams as well.
Yeah. And a lot of times symbols, they'll show me symbols. I've had to learn different symbols through the years because at first it's like, what in the world? What are you trying to tell me? And then through time, of course, I know the different symbols and why they're showing me.
Do you remember having the gifts when you were super young and were you afraid of them? Like, how did you relate to them at that age?
Well, when I was really young, I remember a spirit coming, sitting on the end of my bed, and I was so scared. I was basically paralyzed for fear. And I just prayed and prayed, it's like, please go away, please go away, please go away. And I had nobody to talk to because when I did talk to my mom about it, she was very religious and would just tell me, you can't do that. That's bad. You can't do that. Even though I know she had gifts herself. So,
wow.
Yeah, I honestly feel I'd probably be a lot stronger today had I had somebody to mentor me and kind of work with me through the years instead of kind of having to just go on my own and try and figure it out.
And at what point did you feel like you had support or you could start to like lean into them more and not be so afraid of them?
As I got a little bit older and well, different things. And one thing I started to notice, and I'm going to tell you one of the symbols because this is kind of where it kicked off, where I really started paying attention, thinking, there's something going on here. I was, I don't know, young adult, maybe teenager, and this McDonald's game was going on. They give you little tickets and you'd win like $10,000. I mean, they had some big prizes. Well, I kept having this dream that I was at the beach and I was digging. There's a little bit of money and then I dig and there's more money, more money, more money. And so now that's my sign for money, that, money's coming. And that being said, I had a ticket that was a winning ticket, but I thought you had to have more than one to win, but you didn't. I threw the ticket away and it was worth $10,000. So that's when I was like, okay, time to start listening to my guides or, what's coming through.
Lacy was talking about this too, but how one of your really strong gifts is this ability to clear and connect. And when we talk about the veil being thin, what does that mean? How do you see that playing out? And how do we, for those people who are really, I think so many people are intuitive, they're just really afraid to lean in or open up in any way. And if they do, what happens if they let these spirits in and could bad things happen? How do you go about protecting yourself and all of those things as well?
Well, I think even before we dig into that, let's educate people who are listening for the very first time and they're like, okay, we hear about ghosts, we hear about spirits, we hear, what the fuck is that? How does that even show up? Who are these things showing up? You see them, they're around you, they communicate to you. So for somebody who can sense things around or curious, or your company, your business, you clear people, that's your gift, you clear them from these attached spirits. Let's talk about how does that show up and what are they?
There's so many different things. You can have past life attachments that are still really bothering you. You can have just a random spirit that's whatever reason is still around. You could just have muck in your aura that you got from other people's energy. There's so many different things. One easy thing that you can do, and something I do, just like if something's bothering me, I'll wake up and I'll feel something around. I just sit up and imagine my aura, and then I imagine just clearing it, cutting all ties around my whole aura, send them back to where they came from. And then I imagine I have a zipper around my whole aura, zip it up so nothing can penetrate it. And that does help me. So
how do you guys see this concept of the veil? We're physical beings on this planet, we can touch, feel, whatever. And this is maybe my very analytical human mind, but I'm like, how can we contextualize the spirits? Are they all in the same realm? Are they in between crossing over? Are they in like a holding pattern before they cross over? Have they fully crossed over? Like, what does that look like?
Well, I feel some are earthbound for whatever reason, maybe crossed over too quickly, think they still have something to do here on earth. You can usually feel like the people that have crossed over, they're connecting, they're like usually higher vibrational. You can just feel a more mellow to them, a happiness. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's many dimensions, and I think whatever their experience was and how they passed, and they kind of end up where they end up.
I like that concept though, the different dimensions, because I've heard that too from other psychics where certain, like Lacy, you were even saying that when you were connecting with Tara's husband, like how any ego attachments or anything he would have had in this life it's just purity. How do you feel that, Lacy?
Well, it's interesting because after, he came through on that episode with Dr. Tara, I could only see what he was showing me of himself, really. So I could only see that he was showing me that he was tall and that he's like very gentle and kind. So I wasn't worried about it. And I instantly knew who he was. Like he made himself known that he was Dr. Tara's late husband, who I'd never seen or met. And it was interesting because just this last Saturday, you sent me a photo of him, a screenshot that she had as him in her background, and you forward, her saying thank you for that episode and sharing that message. And it was so interesting to actually see his photo, because what I could sense and what he would show me of himself was nothing. It just didn't have any human energy to it, right? Like there was no humility or ego or all this stuff that we build up it was like his essence. He was just showing me his purest essence.
Well, it's just like opening my mind in such a big way too, of like how to understand all of it. Cause I think And at least in my mind, I'm like, okay, there's angels and then there's people who have crossed over and there's ancestors. But then thinking, of course, there's so many different dimensions. There's so many different planets. Of course, we can assume that there's more entities, more beings, things we can't see. There's a world building in my head of what this can all kind of feel like and look like.
Well, what I'm curious about is when you're clearing a person, do you ever ask why they're attached to this person? I know it varies, but if you were to really systemize it and lay this out clearly, I mean, you've cleared so many people at this point. Even just recently, I was going to tell you today, I'm like, can you clear the house and clear us, because there's a very gentle energy. It's a playful energy. It's not a darker, I just don't like any energies around, to be quite honest, but it's one that's doing something interesting that I've only ever happened a few times, but it just like zips around the house. So it's that feeling of, did I just see? It's like, did one of my dogs just run by? Or
does it feel like a young energy?
It feels like a playful energy, so it could be young, and they're trying to be seen and they're trying to connect.
I think with you, Lacy, I feel like this playful energy, before I clear it, maybe try and see why it's there. I feel like they want to talk to you. That's why they come to you, because they know that you can. Maybe just ask them, why are you here? What is it you're looking for?
Yeah.
And they do tell you, and maybe you can help them, maybe you can't, and then tell them, okay, now it's time to move on. I don't know, just to try, just to see maybe. Yeah.
What are your boundaries with spirits? Because they're around you all the time.
But I don't allow it. Funny thing is, I have a girlfriend who lost a good friend, and I did a reading for her right after it happened. It's been about a year now. And she texted me the other day. She's like, I'm trying to talk to him, but he's not answering me. And she said, so I just tell him to go talk to you. And I laughed because I said, that's not the way it works. He won't get through to me until I'm ready to open up and work. That being said, the veil is crazy thin, because I don't know if I already told you this, Lacy. The other night I woke up at like 3:00 in the morning and I hear this noise and I'm thinking, is Cole watching a movie or something at this time of night? And it was loud. I hear a whole conversation going on. So I stormed downstairs thinking, okay, I'm going to go get after him and tell him, get to bed. Get down there. He's completely asleep. It's all dark. So I went back up and laid back down. I could hear a whole conversation again. And I thought, that is spirit. They are on just another dimension, but it's thin enough that I could hear the whole conversation going on.
Well, what were they talking about? Like what are they talking about?
I couldn't completely make everything out, but it sounded like a party.
Wow.
Like it sounded like that 30s or 40s party. Like they're around a piano, and people are all talking and dancing, and it just sounded like a great time. But it's like, not at 3:00 in the morning, and not for me.
Yeah.
I was going to say, it's so interesting, both of your perspectives on it too, because I can even see, like, Karen, you're like, I'm not really interested in what you're doing. Like, you do your thing. It's none of my business. I have boundaries.
Whatever, you're out of here.
Wait, Lacy, you're like, let's get down. Like, what are your blocks? Why are you here?
Yeah.
Like,
what was your childhood like, spirit? Yeah. No wonder they won't leave me alone. And they're like around me. I'm open. I'm just like curious. They're like, sure, she doesn't have boundaries. Fuck it. We'll be around her. But you're like, nothing. No, sorry. Your friend can't come talk to me anytime he wants.
Okay, wait, Karen. So I have to ask, we knew we were going to record this, and yesterday you started getting some channeling in, which I think was my grandma connecting.
It was.
What was coming through? Share with the audience. The second Lacy was like, this older woman, mother energy, I was like, I know exactly who it is.
Well, it was just a really short little conversation. What was weird is I was getting ready to go somewhere, and all of a sudden I could feel you really strong. I'm thinking, why am I feeling Jessica so strong right now? And all of a sudden I see in my mind's eye, I could tell it was a female, couldn't see a face and stuff, but I could see blonde hair. And you said that later, that your grandma dyed her hair blonde, but it was a really young energy. And honestly, her energy, I wouldn't say was over like late 40s. And it was really playful energy.
Interesting.
So a couple of things. What did she tell me? She was talking about how proud she is of the life you're living. And she said, I hang around her all the time for the ride. Basically, she's living vicariously through you.
Aw.
Yeah. Then the next thing was, that's why I asked you if you were engaged or in a long-term relationship, because she's like, what's the holdup? Let's do it. I want some great grandbabies.
Well, we've been engaged for like 4 years now. So
that's why. That's why she's like, what's happening here? Are we doing it or not doing it? Oh, so after she was talking about the great grandbabies and stuff, she handed you a bouquet of daisies, which stands for love and joy and new motherhood. She was so playful, and wherever she is, she's having a really good time. And she had another gal around her. The other gal didn't say anything. She put her arm around her. And I think it might have been your other grandma, because she said, we're pals now. It was really funny. She was making me laugh. She said a lot more, and I just can't remember. Oh, she was showing me. So Victorian clothing, I really don't have. I think kept showing me Victorian clothing. I didn't know what that meant because I really don't have a symbol for that.
That's interesting. Okay, so it could be one of two things. One, my mom made like an old Victorian dress from one of the witches of Hocus Pocus when I was a kid. It was like this green Bette Midler's character dress. And I found it when my mom was moving out of her house like a year or two ago, and I still fit in it and put it on and danced around the house in it, and I looked ridiculous. But they know that like I love that costume. I loved being a witch. So it could have been that. But my grandma on the other side, my dad's side, she used to have like trunks full of old school clothing that I would dress up in when I was like so young. I'd put on all these like old slips and just dress up stuff as a kid. So it could be that. It's interesting you say that the energy felt like not older than 40, because every time I think of her at that age. She passed when she was 78, but every time I like envision her, she's how I envision her when I was a kid, which would have been around that age range, which is so interesting.
She also had a dog with her. And I didn't ask who the dog was, but I just saw when she finally kind of, as I was telling her, okay, I got to go. And she kind of blew a kiss, meaning for you. And she walked off, and there was a dog with her.
My dad's mom had pets that have passed. So I wonder, and she used to bury all the dogs in her backyard and give them little graves. so her house has animal spirits, I'm sure, still on it to this day, which is really funny. Yeah. Aside from the practice you said in the beginning, which is like kind of like clearing and pulling everything off and then zippering back up, are there any other rituals or practices or things that you lean on that help you? You know, people talk about like saging their homes or lighting a white candle. Like, are there any little practices or rituals that you found helps you balance in?
You can do all of those, but also before I start working, I do a whole grounding ritual. I imagine, holy realm shining down white light and love all around me. Then I imagine tree limbs coming out of my leg, going all the way down into the middle of the universe and grounding in to Mother Earth. And I do a whole ritual of trying to be grounded, because with the work I do, oh boy, it could really wreak havoc with, these spirits that I'm clearing decide they want to come and touch me. It's like, nope, no way.
It's interesting because I do a lot of that stuff myself, and I'm aware of many of these practices, but I can never fully clear myself on my own. Never, ever. No matter how firm I try to be or boundaried or the different things I do, that's why I end up calling you in to do it. And I guess that's what we've deciphered in this conversation. You are like no nonsense about having very strong boundaries. And it's interesting because you've always had an affinity for darkness. Like you've never been afraid of darkness. Not that you at all play in the darker realms, but I'm very afraid of darkness. I've always been. I'm so sensitive. I'm so afraid of anything I'm too sensitive for it. But it's interesting that, I think why you're able to fully clear me anytime, even when I try and to be firm and they don't listen to me and they don't pay attention to me and they just stay messing with my dreams, is because you're able to be extremely boundaried and firm with them.
Do you feel like you have like a spirit team that you connect to more regularly for support or guidance, like a regular spirit or entity or angel or something like that, where it's like you lean on that, you call on that to help guide you? It's like that really good positive energy.
Yeah. Well, of course, my spirit guides, and I do have a few ancestors that I call on, but it depends on different things. Like, just for a silly example, when I used to do pastry, make cakes and stuff, and I used to I'll look at a picture and I want to really make this cake that way, but it's like I can't see it well enough. I'd call in a pastry chef guide or whatever, and they would really help me, and I'd really focus and be able to see every little detail. And I've used, like when I do clearings, I'll use my people that I normally use to clear, but In Lacy's case, there I use my crew that I use all the time, but there is a specific indigenous like priestess that comes in every time. And the first time she did, Lacy said that was the best clearing we ever did. So now every time I go to clear, she always comes in. So people have their own team too that'll come in and help me or show me something, So yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting how they communicate with you. You have a really close friend who helped care for Cole when he was younger, and so tragically, their oldest daughter passed in a car accident, a terrible tragedy, and she was one of his friends, and she'll come through to you often to communicate to the mom or to the dad as well. The most recent one I had heard about not long ago is she kept showing you fish, right?
Yeah, she showed me she and her dad fishing.
Yeah, and then you said, I don't know why, she's showing me this, and that made them so emotional because it makes me emotional, but that was the last thing they did together.
Yeah.
Yeah, like on her anniversary. So
I
they
don't wanna
get really
cry, Lacy.
specific with you. I know it makes me I can't even fathom how they feel as parents. Just
No.
so shattered.
She comes in a lot when I'm on my walks, and she's such a sweet, beautiful energy. The first time she came to me, she didn't know what happened. I was at work. I'll never forget. I was laying in bed. I'm thinking, why am I feeling Hannah? And she was just standing over me, and I'm thinking she was confused and didn't really know what was going on. And then Joe told me what had happened. And I was heartbroken, of course. So I would go on walks and I'd feel her. And then Jen, her mother, contacted me out of the blue. They'd moved away and I hadn't talked to her for a while. And she said, oh, somebody told me that you could, she remembered that I could contact spirits, but somebody reminded her and said, maybe ask Karen if she can reach out to Hannah. And Hannah had already spoken to me. I'd come home and write different things down. I thought, I'm not going to tell her anything unless she asks me. And she did. She contacted me. And so I told her all the experiences I had. And it helped her so much. And that lit me up, because helping people that are grieving, that makes me feel good. When I know I've helped them and they feel better, opposed to being a fortune teller. I have so many people contact me right now with the mediumship, and they want to know, how am I going to make money? That's not my thing. I know, there's great psychics and stuff out there, but that doesn't light me up. I don't want to be a fortune teller. So I do want to get that out there, because I have people just on my site with the mediumship, and that's what they think it is. So I don't want them to be disillusioned. I do explain to them before I, take money or do anything, that that's not what I do. I'm here for people that are grieving or want to contact, specific ancestor or spirit friend, whatever.
Yeah, it's been pretty profound. So that's a really good example. When people, I believe, when they do die completely unexpectedly like that, they're totally lost and confused. And then it's so interesting that she would find you. You're like a vessel. And I'm wondering, in that realm that they're in, that in-between state, there must be just certain light bulbs on where it's like, oh, this person actually is accessible to communicate with. It's someone who has that gift, and it's like a sort of a lighthouse. And so that's why they come to you. Similarly with a family friend of ours that we grew up with, he OD'd, and you instantly connected with him. And I, shared with his sister what he was saying to you, which was really profound, because I do find, and correct me if I'm wrong, that spirits tend to show you really specific things about themselves in mediumship to ensure that the family member, whomever you're communicating with, knows that it's them. So like he kept, it's going to make me emotional again, but he kept showing you like wearing a certain hat. And his sister was like, this is crazy. Your mom didn't even know him during the phase that he wore that hat, but he was so like clearly showing you that hat. So like it makes me so emotional that they would know like that he's really, really trying to connect with them and say he's okay. And he kept like telling you jokes because that was his personality, so that these like super grieving family members could feel like that peace and that assurance. And I think that that's a really profound, responsible gift to have in the world. It's like, it's wild to have that. And I think that, yeah, like being able to give that kind of it's such a fascinating human experience that we have, that so many different emotions that we can feel, such a level of grief, but we're so disconnected from the spirit realm that once somebody transitions who's so meaningful in our life, it's like a cutoff happens, you know? I can't even fathom, like as a parent, I don't think I've lost anybody super close in my life that I even have to have gone through or understand those emotions. So like to be able to have that gift to bring some sort of reassurance and love and soothing to someone's grief, I think is so profound.
You've heard us talk about our Pathway membership, but what actually is it? It is an all-access membership where you can get every single workshop that we've ever created, all of our deep imaginings, which are our reprogramming audios, to help you manifest. You can access it on the desktop or in the TBM app on your phone directly. We, of course, have our foundational workshops, such as our How to Manifest workshop, which takes you step by step through this neural manifestation process to actually unblock, expand, and take aligned action to connect with your manifestations. Our How to Be Magnetic workshop, our Inner Child and Shadow workshops. And then, of course, we have a workshop if you are in a rut, if you're in a rock bottom, if you're in an up level, perhaps you need to set boundaries, maybe you want to focus specifically on the block of money or love. It is all in there. And then twice a year as a community, we gather for our challenges. Our challenges are one of the most effective parts of the process because you get accountability. It is really a handheld experience in how to work through whatever the theme of that year's challenge is. And now to my absolute favorite part of our membership, which I think in and of itself would be worth the entire weight of the membership if we just had this alone, our Deep Imagining library. This library encompasses over 60 neural reprogramming audio tracks. They're self-hypnosis tracks that will really support you in any step of this journey. If you're needing calming, nervous system regulation, unblocking with a specific test or trigger, going through a difficult time, processing a big emotion, or maybe you just want reinforcing, how to reinforce those neural pathways of confidence, abundance, self-worth, deservingness, and connection with your dream life. And not only that, if you go to the app, we just launched Deep Imagining playlists where we're grouping different themes of DIs together. So no matter what you're going through, you have something for you. And we're constantly dropping new playlists as well as brand new Deep Imaginings. And if you need more support in your process, you can go to our brand new video series, Channelings with Lacy, where she touches on the exact energetics that are going on right now in manifestation and how it may apply to your life. So obviously, I am a huge fan of this membership. The peace of mind I get from being able to have all the tools I need at my disposal, no matter where I'm at with my life, if shit's hitting the fan, if I'm feeling dysregulated, if I'm needing to come back to my center, if I'm needing to brainstorm or daydream or connect with what my vision for my future is, every single tool is in there to support me. And don't just take my word for it. We have thousands of testimonials of people who have had incredible success stories with these tools. So take the guesswork out of your manifestation process and get real tools that are going to give you real results. For podcast listeners only, you can use code EXPANDED, all caps EXPANDED, for 20% off your first month of the pathway. Join now and have your best year yet. What would be one thing both of you guys would say to someone who's like, oh man, I feel like I have intuitive gifts. I feel intuitive, but I'm not quite sure how to tap into them or lean into them more. Is there a resource? Is there something they can, even like a little exercise they could do on their own? Like, is there any practices that you felt super helpful to help like strengthen that trust with yourself with the gifts?
There are psychic circles out there. You can go online and find all kinds of resources where you can practice with other people. And because everybody's going to come into their gift their own way. So it's hard to say, oh yeah, do this or do that. They're going to have to kind of play around. I say, of course, meditate, get out in nature, talk to your spirits, and just really try and pay attention to feelings, senses. And again, there is so many different things out there. Psychic circles. You can do one-on-one with just another person to practice. I wish I would have, I can't remember the name of some of them. But I took a few classes at a college, Arthur Findlay in England, and they were kind of psychic circles too. And then they'd have like a teacher show you a few things, and then you'd all just open up and start working. And like they'd say, which was really helpful because I get in my head, and I know a lot of people do, is there is no wrong answer. If somebody doesn't connect, that doesn't mean, just keep working on it. Just say what you see, and feel. And just keep doing it. You're not wrong. And there is no medium in this world or psychic that's going to be 100% right always. There's not one, because it's just not possible. You can be very good, but you're not always going to get everything 100%. And that's something I had to learn, because I even told Lacy, somebody told me one time, just fake it till you make it. It's like, no, I'm not that person. I don't want to give somebody false information just to say I'm a medium or whatever. I want to know what I'm doing to either help them, or at least I want to be, 99% sure that I'm on the right track and I'm really helping them and not causing more damage.
So important, the ethics of it too.
Oh, for sure. It's like such a big responsibility. Something I've definitely been navigating recently is this fine line between, in the TBM work, we feel like we just have all this unblocking we have to be doing, which is true, but there is this finesse now that I definitely am bringing in a lot more of my guides and ancestors to pick up the heavy lifting. Recent examples of that, post shadow eclipse, when I was in Mendo a few weeks ago, it was so much was coming up for me in such a good way of like, oh, wow. Like when I talk about the stripping and like structures completely disintegrating, it was like happening before my eyes in my own world, and like very Aquarian style, where I was like, why do I feel like the world has to be on my shoulders in the divinity of the unfolding of things? I need to start surrendering that a little bit more too, instead of controlling the strings as much as possible. And I do think there's probably a world in TBM where that's going to become also a little bit more in the forefront as we head into these next 2 years of things happening a lot more rapidly. It's going to be an interesting evolution, I think.
I've so felt that. I had a session with Missy from our community, who's a psychic and energy healer. She was saying that there's a block like in my lineage, my grandmother's mother, who like felt the world was just unsafe. And like her storyline was like everything was ripped from her, like parents passing, put in a foster care, that the next parent she was given had passed away, and then she got given to someone else, and then her husband had passed away. Like she had experienced so much grief, so much loss, and just this core shaking feeling of like the world is not safe. Like I cannot relax because something will get ripped from me at any second. And she was like, that somatically is still like in you. And when we were going through the money challenge, when we were talking about like rooting into safety, that was like one of my forefront pieces of like grieving her pain and sitting with it, but then being like, this is not my story. We are not here anymore. And like, I cannot be the one trying to live that out in that fear and that lack anymore. And like, there was so much, even when I do the Rooted in Abundance DI, when I'd be on my walks, I'd be like releasing it back and like showing her, no, look, you can look through my eyes. Like we're safe. We're good. Everything's okay, to try to like release it. And I feel like it helped a lot. So
yeah, I think that's another really big topic. I'm curious too what you have to say about this, Mom, when you see ancestors show up. But I feel like so much in my daily consciousness, just like what you're doing there, Jessica, even when I'm around my children, I'm like, whoa, I am the stop of so many cycles for them. So many, even within our lineage, Mom, like on my dad's side, where it's just like, yeah, no, that's done. That stops here on an epigenetic level. Yeah, I wonder what I do feel that there's going to be an interesting reveal here, at some point throughout the years, why we have this connection to spirit still. Obviously, historically, it's thought that they help us, they guide us. Some of historically, many cultures believe that they can mess with us, and even traditionally in Samhain, what we're going to be celebrating and what we celebrate, people did these beautiful offerings and meals to spirits because they just didn't want anyone to fuck with them. They were like offering desserts and meals and like appeasing spirits when the veil was thin to protect
and
them.
the different masks they wear on Samhain to hide from them.
That's why they wore costumes. That's where costumes came
to
from.
hide from them so they wouldn't follow.
Yes, wow. They couldn't follow home and mess with them, especially, this is a Celtic tradition. So you have to remember this is like heavily in an environment where you're believing in fairies and stuff, which I do. I work with fairies actually a lot, which is, and it's interesting. When you first came to my property here in the Santa Monica Mountains, you were like, I just need you to know, Lacy, you have a lot of land spirits. And you weren't the first person to say that. I had our really specific feng shui person come. I always do before we get a property. And she was like, there's a lot of elemental land spirits on this property that are really good, doing good things for you. So there's so many realms out there. And I'm like, are they all in the same realm? And why? And what's the connection? And I think through religion and colonial missionary, we've lost the understanding, like ancestrally, it just has not been passed down to us. That connection's been broken, and we have so many distractions distracting us from that connection. We have electronics distracting us, we have everything distracting us from it. But there's a reason why we are connected with spirits that we have forgotten. I'm curious what that is. And you, Mom, we didn't have our lineage pass that down to us, and that knowledge and that relationship. So we're all having to navigate this. I want to know why, because I know that connection and that bridge is important. When we understand that why, then this is how my mind works in life, but we have a little bit of a compass to reorient the way we're truly supposed to be living. In this modern society, it's hard to understand. There were so many powers at play to disconnect us in every single way from our intuition, from our connection with spirit, from our connection with each other, from women with each other. It's so deep that I'm finding on a cellular level and metaphysical level, I want those connections. So yeah, it's a really long-winded tangent about, I just wonder what that why is. Like, why are these spirits around us? Like, why do we have such a connection with them?
They're here to help us, some. I think back in the day, it was a way to keep your kids in line by scaring them with different spirits. But I mean, what broke our line was severe religion. My mom stopped it there because I know my grandma had it. So yeah, she had it. I know my mom had it because when I would tell her something, it wasn't like a big shock, like, oh my gosh. It was like a knowing, but she didn't want me to do it kind of thing. So yeah. And today's society, you're right. I mean, probably half the people aren't connecting because we're too busy on our phones, and everything else, just everything we have to think about. Back in the day, they didn't have nearly the things to think about that we have to think about. So, yeah.
I think this is such a potent kind of question to pose to the audience and leave them here with that too, that just get curious, check in, listen in, feel into your senses, get in nature, create time to be quiet, whether that's because you want to connect to your ancestors, your spirit guides, if you want to tap into your intuitive gifts stronger, listen to your ping stronger. It really is grounding back into presence and really feeling and trusting what you're feeling is correct. Even if you're like, I don't fully believe in myself, that these pings are correct or whatever, just do an experiment with them. Take a month and say, I'm going to believe whatever comes through is true and see what happens. I'm just curious if everyone does this, what do we all learn? And let's bring it back together.
And the veil is thin.
And people that do that, go out in nature, just meditate, sit in front of a tree for a while and just really try and connect with the tree. But then I think they should probably go home and write stuff down because sometimes people forget. And then they'll probably notice a pattern. You don't have to tell anybody. If you feel like, oh, that wasn't real, just write it down and you'll find out soon enough.
Karen, where can people find you, connect with you, clear with you, all of the things?
My email is hello. What is it? Hello at
No, I was
Karen
looking for your website.
McGowan.
Your website
What's
will be
that?
ready.
Oh, my website?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we can link it in the show notes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, both of you, so much. And also just having the vulnerability to come on here and talk about this stuff. Because I know with like the witch wound and everything in media, it can be like a scary topic to come out and share with the world. But just know our audience is very receptive and loving and welcoming to this, and appreciate both of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
I hope you guys enjoyed that episode and are starting to get some ideas, pings, and just be open and curious. What ways has your intuition, has your instincts clicked in, even during this episode, or play with it over the next couple days as well. So for anyone joining our book club, a little homework for you guys. You can either do it before the book club, before you watch the first video, or you can do it after, whatever you feel called to. But for the first one, we're going to cover in the book version intro, The Real Secret to Manifestation. Chapter 1, The Law of Attraction is your subconscious self-worth. Chapter 2, Reconnect with your authentic self. This is where you form your authentic code. And 3, Cast the List. If you're following along in the How to Manifest workshop, that will be the intro to neural manifestation section, the authentic code section, and the list section. So like I said, you guys can do that work prior to Wednesday's call, or you can do it after the call when you get some clarity. I know I am extremely excited to craft my authentic code again. One really good DI to do, if you're doing that, is the authentic self DI. That one is huge for remembering the parts of your authentic essence that you may have disconnected from when you were younger. Okay, more on this in the coming weeks, and we can't wait to see you in the book club. If you're a Pathway member, it will automatically be in your portal, or you can sign up for free at the link in the show notes.